How is it possible that someone you've never spoken to, never touched, never truly seen, can stir more emotion in you than the person who's shared your bed for years? These aren't just lapses in loyalty, they're signals from somewhere deeper. They reveal something about the nature of desire, the architecture of the unconscious, and the illusions we quietly feed. The answer isn't found in romance. It's found in psychology, in philosophy, in the architecture of our unconscious mind. The stranger we chase is not just a person, they are a symbol, a mirror, a container for every fragmented piece of ourselves we haven't dared to examine. We don't project onto strangers because we know them. We project onto them because we don't. Because in the absence of reality, the imagination runs wild. It colors them with everything we've forgotten to see in the people closest to us and in ourselves. We're not pulled toward the stranger because they are better. We're pulled because they are blank, untouched by familiarity, free from the weight of history, a canvas for our unspoken longing. In the next few minutes, we'll unravel the illusion of desire. We'll explore how your mind projects fantasies onto the unknown, how philosophers like Schopenhauer warned us about the trap we mistake for freedom. Stay with me until the end, because by the final frame, you won't just see others differently, you'll see yourself differently too. Schopenhauer warned us that the will to chase is not freedom, it is compulsion. It is the echo of a biological imperative that does not care whether we understand or suffer. But awareness changes everything. Freedom isn't about indulging every impulse. It's about recognizing where they come from. Understanding that what pulls us isn't always what heals us. That sometimes the real act of rebellion in a world obsessed with novelty is to choose depth, to choose stillness, to stay. Desire isn't about the other. It's about the absence of something within. We chase not because we are immoral, but because we are incomplete. And no amount of chasing will ever bring us closer to wholeness unless we turn the lens inward. Not out of obligation, but out of clarity. The mystery you think lives in the stranger lives in you. And until you're willing to confront it, you'll keep running from one face to another, mistaking motion for meaning. So don't condemn your desire. Don't shame your wandering thoughts. Just ask them what they're really trying to show you. Not about someone else, about you. Arthur believes something few dare to say out loud, that love as we know it is an illusion. Not in the poetic sense, not in the cynical, modern, swipe left kind of way, but in a much more unsettling way, that what we call love is actually the disguise of a deeper, more primal force, the will to life. This will, according to Schopenhauer, is not romantic. It's not kind. It doesn't care about your dreams, your compatibility, or how much you laugh at each other's jokes. The will to life is blind. It is biological compulsion, embedded in our instincts, driving us not toward happiness, but toward reproduction, toward the survival of the species. You think you're falling in love with someone's mind, their soul, their humor, their values. But Schopenhauer would say, you're being tricked. Your biology has assessed the stranger's facial symmetry, their gait, their voice, their health cues, and decided they might make genetically viable children. The rest? Projection, a hallucination you've mistaken for connection. This explains why sometimes the most inconvenient attractions are the most intense, why people risk everything for a brief encounter, why a stranger's face can haunt you more than a decade of shared memories. That stranger may carry a trait in their body, not their biography, that triggers your unconscious will. A signal that, combined with your own biology, might statistically create stronger offspring. You don't see this, you feel it. Schopenhauer called this genetic magnetism, a force beyond reason, beyond culture. The will does not negotiate. It pushes, it seduces, it whispers even when you're not listening. And once its job is done, once the genetic goal is fulfilled, the illusion dissolves. What once felt like divine connection fades into routine, even regret. The will moves on because it's not invested in your happiness, only in your continuation. This casts a chilling shadow over modern romance. It forces us to ask, Are we truly choosing who we love? Or are we just passengers in a vehicle driven by the blind will of our ancestors? We believe we have agency, that we follow our hearts. But Schopenhauer would argue, what we call the heart is just the front man for an ancient evolutionary algorithm. Romantic idealism tells us we search for a soulmate, but in reality, we may be acting out instructions written in a language we can't read, obeying a master we don't even know exists. That stranger who just passed by on the street, they may not be your future, but they might be your biology's memory of survival, disguised as desire. In the beginning, every glance feels electric, every touch a discovery. Conversations stretch into the night, filled with wonder and possibility. You see them not just as they are, but as you hope they might be. This is the high of novelty, the intoxicating rush of encountering someone new. The thrill isn't always about who they are. Often, it's about who you get to become in their presence. But fast forward, the same person who once gave you butterflies now feels predictable, not in a bad way, just in a way that feels quieter, calmer. The mystery that once kept you up at night is now mapped out, known, safe. This shift isn't a failure of the relationship. It's a function of how your brain works. Psychologists call it hedonic adaptation, the human tendency to return to a baseline level of satisfaction, no matter how positive an experience might be. In other words, your mind gets used to joy. It normalizes pleasure. It flattens peaks into plains. Think of a song you once obsessed over, played it on loop. Every word felt written just for you. But after the 100th play, something changed. The notes didn't hit the same way. The magic faded, not because the song changed, but because you did. Our relationships are subject to the same neurological law. Familiarity breeds comfort, and while that comfort is essential for emotional intimacy, it dulls the sharp edges of desire. The very predictability that makes love stable can also make it feel static. Desire, it turns out, thrives on the unknown. It feeds on uncertainty. Strangers offer infinite possibility, the fantasy of what could be, untouched by the reality of what is. Your partner, no matter how wonderful, is tethered to the known. And the known is not always thrilling, so we find ourselves torn between the safety of connection and the lure of the unfamiliar, between the calm of love and the chaos of longing. This isn't a moral dilemma, it's a neurological one. The question is not whether we're loyal or broken. The question is desire designed to fade, or have we simply misunderstood what it's meant to teach us? We don't fall in love with people, not at first. We fall in love with the idea of them. Strangers are magnetic, not because of who they are, but because of who we imagine they could be. They offer a blank canvas, an empty space where our subconscious paints in the colors of our longings, our unmet needs, our hidden fantasies. We don't see them clearly, we see them symbolically. Carl Jung called this projection the anima and the animus, the inner feminine in men and the inner masculine in women. These are psychological blueprints shaped by experience and emotion that we unknowingly cast onto others. We meet someone and feel an instant pull, not because they've revealed their soul, but because they reflect something buried in our own. That woman you passed on the train, you don't know her. You don't know her fears, her flaws, her history. What you feel isn't her. It's your psyche speaking, a mirror held up to the part of you that still believes in something more. She becomes a container for your unlived potential, the embodiment of what's missing, not in her, but in you. Fantasy thrives in absence. It grows in the gaps between information, in the shadows of uncertainty. The less we know, the more space we have to project. That's why strangers feel intense, not despite the mystery, but because of it. Meanwhile, the person you love, the one who knows your moods, your habits, your insecurities, they've stepped out of the symbolic and into the real. They are no longer a mystery. They are human, beautiful, yes, but flawed, real, tangible. And the psyche often resists the tangible. It's not that we love strangers more. It's that we love the way they allow us to momentarily forget reality, to escape ourselves, to imagine what might be possible if only we were someone else, somewhere else in another life with another version of ourselves. The stranger is never just a person. They are a psychological Rorschach test, and the image we see isn't them, it's us. Desire feels like freedom, like motion, like life pulling you towards something beautiful. It lights up your mind, floods your body with anticipation, whispers promises in the dark. This time, it will be different. This time, it will be real. But Schopenhauer saw through the seduction. To him, desire wasn't a path to happiness. It was the architect of human suffering, a trick of the will, that blind, irrational life force that uses our minds as instruments, our emotions as bait. Every spark of infatuation, every hunger for someone new, isn't a sign of liberation. It's a signal that you're still bound. The will doesn't want you to be happy. It wants you to keep chasing. Desire never fulfills. It only feeds itself, like a mirage in the desert. The closer you get, the further it moves. You catch a glimpse, believe it's water, run toward it only to find sand, over and over. Yet still, we run. It's easy to think the next person will be the one, that the stranger with the dazzling smile will finally complete us. But that belief is the engine of the will. It's how it keeps us in motion, always wanting, never arriving. The will survives by making sure satisfaction is temporary. Once desire is fulfilled, it dies. And so it must shift, from one person to the next, one ideal to another. The moment a relationship becomes real, the fantasy collapses. The illusion burns away, like wax dripping from a candle. What's left isn't what we imagined. It's what actually is. And this is where real love begins. Not in the fire of desire, but in the ashes that follow. Not in the rush of pursuit, but in the stillness of truth. Schopenhauer's warning wasn't to avoid love. It was to understand its illusions, to recognize that the stranger pulling at your attention is not freedom. They are just the next mirage, the next flame in a long line of flames that will burn out, leaving you emptier than before. Desire doesn't make you free. It makes you obedient to biology, to illusion, to the ancient will that doesn't care whether you find peace. Until you see through the illusion, you are not chasing love. You are being chased by something that never stops running. There was a time when the stranger was rare, a chance encounter, a fleeting moment that left a lasting impression. You saw someone once, maybe twice, and that was it. Your mind filled in the blanks. You imagined, you wondered, and then you moved on. The unknown remained sacred and distant. Now the stranger is everywhere, on your phone, in your feed, in your pocket. Thousands of faces scroll past you daily, curated, filtered, perfected. You don't just see people, you see algorithms, high-definition avatars, edited versions of lives that never really existed. Each swipe is a promise of something better, more beautiful, more exciting, more compatible. Dating apps turn desire into a numbers game. Attention becomes a currency. You match, you message, you discard. There's no need for vulnerability, no need for depth. Everyone is replaceable, and novelty is infinite. We've gamified romance, and in doing so, we've broken our ability to value it. The more options we see, the more convinced we become that there's someone better, just out of reach. Someone who will fit more perfectly, make us feel more alive, say the right things at the right time, forever. It's a fantasy rooted in abundance, but the human mind wasn't designed for abundance. It was designed for survival. Psychologically, we short-circuit. Our dopamine system, once meant to reward achievement and bonding, now becomes hijacked by the sheer volume of potential mates and influencers and viral thirst traps. Every scroll promises something better. Every like becomes a hit. The effect? Chronic dissatisfaction. We begin to treat reality with contempt. The person sitting beside us, the one who chose us, who stayed, starts to feel like a compromise. Not because they've failed, but because our expectations have been inflated beyond recognition. We've trained our brains to crave fantasy and reject familiarity. We crave intensity, not intimacy. And so we enter a loop, one that feels like freedom but functions like a trap. We seek more, find less. The closer we get to idealized perfection, the further we drift from actual connection. This isn't weakness, it's neurological warfare against contentment, a slow erosion of our ability to feel satisfied, not because we're broken, but because we're drowning in illusions. In a world of endless strangers, the real tragedy isn't losing love, it's losing the ability to recognize it when it's right in front of us. So ask yourself, is it really the stranger you're drawn to? Or is it who you imagine you'd be with them? The stranger is not the answer, they are a mirror. And the only way to stop chasing illusions is to finally look into it. So the next time you feel drawn to a stranger, pause. Ask yourself, is it them you're longing for? Or a part of yourself you've forgotten? Desire isn't the enemy. Misunderstanding it is. If this video shifted something in you, even slightly, take a second to like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more explorations into the hidden architecture of the human mind. Because the more we understand ourselves, the less power illusions hold over us. And that, Anna, is where real freedom begins.